Hello, this is Tom Capshew, and you're watching my Consciousness Rising YouTube channel. This is episode 11, and I hope that you go back and listen to the other episodes as we're kind of building on the foundation of what I've shared previously. We're talking about consciousness, particularly human consciousness, and how we navigate the world. In our last episode, episode 10, we talked about the noosphere, or the noosphere. And I'll put up a graphic of where we left off in episode 10 in case you haven't watched that yet. We have all that is the whiteboard. Wakan Tanka is a Lakota name for it. The Great Mystery is another name. Source, creative force, that's everything that exists. And as humans, we've carved out a section of that based on our physical senses that we can call the seen world. And so the seen world is a subset of all that is. And what is not seen or experienced by our physical senses, I call the unseen world, which is all the energy in the universe that has been created and is in our world. So within the seen world, there's a part of the seen world and the unseen world that is human created, and I call that the noosphere. That's everything that's ever been created, thought, experienced by humans over the course of humanity. The noosphere covers both seen events, like looking at a tree and you're thinking that's a beautiful tree, and unseen events as far as emotions, fear, conspiracy theories. Those are all created in our heads, and we don't necessarily see them in the world unless we write them on paper and publish them or put them on the internet. So everything that's ever been created by humans is part of the noosphere. And where we left off in episode 10 was that little red circle now that is what we consider individual human consciousness. Individual in the sense that it feels like we're separate from everything that is, but we are always and always will be embedded in all that is. And our sense of separation is just that we are autonomous bodies that we can move around and it feels like we're separate from everything. But that's actually not true at all. So today in episode 11, I'd like to give you a few graphics of where we can find ourselves as individual human consciousness. And I'd like to start with before we were born. If you look at the next slide, B2, then maybe it's closer if we put that individual human consciousness over by love and the sea of possibilities. Because before we're born, we're in the sea of possibilities. We haven't manifested yet in the seen world. And so we're still swimming in that sea of energy that creates everything. So once we're born, we often will go into a place where we go, depending on how we're raised, if we're given great caregiving then we come out of our mother's womb, and we are encapsulated in a sense of safety for the most part. When we're born, we'll respond to our basic needs inside of our body. We'll cry out when we're hungry. We'll cry out when we're uncomfortable or when we feel alone. And part of that early process is our caregivers give us comfort and create a human bond with the infants. And so we often find ourselves in some security, but it's certainly not the security we had when we were in the womb, where we were encased in amniotic fluid and had all our needs taken care of with the umbilical cord that fed us and kept us growing in the womb. So it's always a shock to our physical system to be born, because we go from water breathers to air breathers. And we also have this sense after a couple of years of being separate or having an individual identity. When we're born, we feel just like we did in the womb, and that we are a part of everything, and everything is a part of us. There's no differentiation between our physical being and our sense of being connected to everything. After our brain develops some, in around 2 and 3 years, we develop this sense that we are separate and autonomous, and this is the creation of duality. Instead of everything being a part of me, there are things that are not a part of me and I don't have control over. And so we create this subject and object duality, where what happens inside of me is subject and what happens outside of me is an object. And so that's when fear can take hold of our lives, and we can become fear-based at a very early age, depending on how well our needs are supplied around us, because we're still dependent at 3 or 4 years old on adults to help us be safe and get food and be warm enough and all of the things that help us to survive. So some of us end up in a place where we are in the noosphere and the seen world, and our predominant response to the world is fear. And what that does for us is that keeps our midbrain, our amygdala, active all the time to look out, to be hypervigilant for anything that's going to impact our ability to survive. Not just physical survival, as in your life, you keep your life in your body, but also social survival. So we get fearful about our reputation, about whether anybody loves us, how humans look at us and interact with us, and how we interact. Are we doing it right? This is what happens predominantly in middle school and high school, where we go through that separation of individuating from our family. So we become, at 2 or 3 years old, we individuate from our primary caregiver and say, oh, that's someone else, that's not me. And then in our teenage years, we individuate from our family and say, okay, I'm not solely identified by my family. I'm an individual and I get to make choices. And that's where, all of the risky choices that teenagers make comes about. They're testing, who am I and how do I want to live in the world? And so then if you look at, then there are people who are not in fear and the noosphere, but they are connected to the seen world and the unseen world outside, for the most part, of human interaction. So, for example, I go to Lake Superior every August and spend a week or two camping and being in the seen world. I don't have contact with many other humans, and I'm communing both with the unseen world and the seen world, the landscape of Lake Superior and the shoreline. And it's incredibly restorative for me. It gives me lots of juice for the coming months after that. So that's setting myself into a situation where I can immerse myself in the created world, not human created, but creator created, and the unseen world, and maintain that connection. Where many of us reside, and as humans, we need a little bit of social interaction, and we need to navigate the noosphere to some extent, but we get to choose the amount of attention and time that we invest in the noosphere. And I would argue that most of us get seduced into spending way more time in the noosphere than we either would choose to or is good for us. And so my wish for you today is to take a few minutes to examine how much of your life is drawn into the noosphere, into all the human created aspects of living, and how much of your life you intentionally set yourself aside out of the noosphere, where you can commune with the created seen world, and you can connect with your inner knowing, with your heart space, where I believe all our power resides, and you can connect with the great mystery, or Wakan Tanka. So please like, subscribe, watch till the end. If you're hearing my words now, you've done that, and I thank you for that. And please comment. I'd love to continue our discussion. And I will do my best to put at the end of this video, or in the show notes, a video of me reading from my Consciousness Rising book, the chapter entitled Feeding at the Trough of Fear. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.